Dr. James J.C. Cooley. That's right. Let's go. It's the James Cooley Show. It's your life. Dr. James J.C. Cooley. All right.
The James Cooley Show, It's Your Life, can be heard every Sunday at 9 p.m. right here on The Answer San Diego. Life is full of circles, cycles, phases, and stages. It's your choice to ignore or embrace them. Motivational speaker, author, military veteran, and founder of the J.C. Cooley Foundation, James Cooley, and his guest will inspire and equip you to strive for your own greatness. And
The James Cooley Show, It's Your Life, can be heard every Sunday at 6 p.m.
The James Cooley Show, It's Your Life, can be heard every Sunday at 6 p.m. right here on The Answer. Life is full of circles, cycles, phases, and stages. It's your choice to ignore or embrace them. Motivational speaker, author, military veteran, and founder of the J.C. Cooley Foundation, James Cooley and his guest will inspire and equip you to strive for your own greatness and overcome adversities. Listen to The James Cooley Show, It's Your Life, every Sunday at 6 p.m. right here on The Answer.
Yeah. Dr. James J.C. Cooley. The James Cooley Show. It's your life. Yeah.
Hello, welcome to the James Cooley Show, It's Your Life. I'm your host, Dr. James J.C. Cooley. And of course, on Wednesdays, 306 Degree Health, we got the real host, which is Dr. Michael Mantia. And he has done it again like he always do. I'm brought another one of the top professionals on here to talk about health, talk about a lot of different things. So I'll tell you what, I'm going to tell you right now, I'm going to give you a heads up. Grab you about 8-9 bags. Oh, well. Can't mention popcorn today because that's something that we're going to try to avoid, so, had to throw that one in, Dr. Mike. How you doing?
I'm doing great. And
hey,
today
you on mute, Dr. Mike.
Oops. I'm on mute.
Dr. Mike?
He's not on mute.
Nope, not on mute.
I can hear you, Dr. Mike.
All right. Dr. James, not hearing me.
But you can hear me, right?
I can hear you, and I can hear James.
Okay, well, you know what?
I'll just tell you that we're diving into a topic today that touches millions of people. And what I love about our guest is his approach is anchored in science, it's grounded in compassion, and he brings a lot of hope. What more can we ask for?
Oh my gosh, most definitely. And this is a topic we have heard about just throughout life. People who are going through stuff through things, and they compensate for those things by emotionally eating.
Yeah.
And we have an amazing returning guest on the show, Mr. Jason Gootman, who actually is going to talk about the topic. And, again, this is 360 Health Day. Yay! And the topic is how to permanently overcome emotional eating. And whatever platform that you watching the show on, we're on over 80 live streaming platforms. Please ask questions, provide comments, and we will address them with the guests. So here we go.
Okay.
So today's topic is, again, 360-degree health, how to permanently overcome emotional eating. And we're having a sit-down discussion with a returning guest, Jason Gootman. He's a Mayo Clinic certified wellness coach, National Board certified health and wellness coach, nutritionist, exercise physiologist, and holistic wellness professional. He's going to discuss why nutrition strategies and willpower aren't enough to overcome emotional eating, the science of addiction as it relates to food, including junk food and sugary food. That's me. I love sugary. And also practical strategies for mitigating and eventually permanently overcoming emotional eating. So again, Jason Gootman, he helps people reverse and prevent type 2 diabetes, cardiovascular disease, and other ailments with evidence-based approaches to nutrition, exercise, stress reduction, holistic wellness, and most importantly, lasting behavior improvement and positive habit formation. As part of his work, he often helps people lose weight and keep it off, in part by helping them overcome the common challenges of yo-yo dieting and emotional eating, which we'll be discussing today. He helps people go from knowing what to do and having good intentions to consistently taking great care of themselves in ways that help them add years to their life and life to their years. So please welcome back our guest, Mr. Jason Gootman.
Good reading, Jason.
Thank you so much for having me. I think I've gotten enough from the introduction to the show to fuel me for the rest of the week. I can't imagine what our conversation is going to do.
Right. You didn't know all about yourself, did you?
No.
It's an absolute pleasure having you on, Jason. I know you've been on the show before. Been a while, I think.
I haven't. It was fun. And I want to go straight to something Michael said in his introductory comments. This is a hopeful topic. When a person goes down the road of even mitigating, but eventually permanently overcoming emotional eating, they don't only get to overcome emotional eating, they learn a lot about themselves and they ultimately learn to meet some other needs they didn't even know they were missing. So that's my hopeful starting point.
Well, can you tell our audience who probably didn't see you last time when you were on the show, maybe they did, tell them a little bit more about you. What got you off into what you're doing? Why you're so passionate about making sure that folks understand that overcoming emotional eating is just a mindset?
Well, I'll keep some of it simple, but I think it is fun and helpful. I was an overweight teenager, and that was where my passion for wellness started. Essentially, I didn't get. And I don't mean this judgmentally at all. I didn't get the kinds of help I needed, and over a long time and the hard way, as they say, I learned to take better care of myself. So that combined with what I was interested in studying in school, all came together to. Again, Michael, I'm very thankful for the way you sort of set up this conversation to have both an intellectual understanding of this, but also a great deal of acceptance, compassion, and kindness. And in my experience, those two things together are very powerful, and one without the other are still helpful, but can sometimes be lacking.
Yeah. Unfortunately, people are not kind to themselves to begin with. And we turn to all kinds of ways to help ourselves treat ourselves better. And food is one of them. We'll get into that. In 1971, 1972, I wrote my master's thesis on the psychological aspects of obesity. My father had obesity, and so it was a topic that was near and dear to me. It's been many years ago when I wrote that thesis, and the insights haven't changed, really. They haven't changed. But let's begin. Let's start personal, since we are there. What drew you into this area of emotional eating? Was there a time, a moment when emotional eating became very real for you and you realized, I need to do something about this?
It's a good question. And I would say personally, it wasn't actually a huge part of my journey. It was as I'm getting more into wellness coaching, it just became this clear discovery that it was a very important part for many people. That is to say, having more information wasn't that helpful to people. Seeing people summon a whole lot of willpower wasn't that helpful to too many people. And then just really seeing that per your master's thesis, that so much of our eating is driven by deeper, call them unconscious mechanisms that we often developed very early in life. And so, yeah, I just was seeing a lot of people trying to outthink them. Michelle alluded to that in the introduction of like nutrition strategies. If I drink more water, if I have enough protein, or just really willpower, like making emotional eating the enemy, the dragon, and just feeling like they absolutely need to slay it. I like the idea that not only is it not the enemy, I like the analogy of it being like the check engine light in your car. It's there to help. It's there to ask you or to tell you to look at the engine, where you'll often discover the engine needs some care. And in that way, it's not your enemy. It's not trying to bring you down. It's actually trying to help you.
That's a great analogy. I use that for many emotional issues. I have anxiety. It's a signal. I have feeling down. It's an alarm. We have to pay attention to it. The alarms are there. We have to help people be able to accept paying attention to it. So I want to begin with this. We've been kicking around this term emotional eating a lot already in the first couple of moments. How do you define emotional eating? And what is it that you think so many people don't understand about it?
Great question. First of all, I use the term because it's the common parlance. I actually don't love the term because I don't think it's that accurate. I'll broadly define it as eating when we're not hungry, eating for reasons other than fulfilling our hunger. But the term I like better is a hyphenated term, comfort compensatory eating. So I think that more accurately describes the phenomenon, which we're doing it to comfort ourselves. This is also a hopeful message because it lets people off the hook, because to do something to comfort yourself is an act of self-care, and it is adaptive, but ultimately maladaptive because it causes another problem. But that's to say it's not all bad. I often am working with clients and say, for the challenging things you are feeling, there are a lot worse things you could do right now than have a cookie, right? There are a lot more self-destructive things you could do. So I help people see that they're trying to help themselves, right? And underneath that comfort they're trying to provide themselves, they're compensating for an unmet need. Now, that's not a judgmental statement. We're all needs organisms. We have needs all the time. And we have varying levels of skills at different times in our lives to proactively.
Hold that thought. We got to take a station break. Sure. But as you see, this is an absolutely fantastic conversation. If you want to be part of this conversation, just go to the platform that you're watching us on. Go to the comments, ask any question that you might have. I promise you we'll get you an answer. It's your life, and we'll see you shortly after the break.
Dr. James, JC, Cooley. The James Cooley Show.
Welcome to Viridian Christian University, where faith and learning come together to transform lives. At VCU, we believe that education is more than just academics. It's about fostering a community of growth, integrity, and purpose. Whether you're pursuing a bachelor's, master's, or doctorate, VCU offers flexible, affordable, and 100% online degree programs that cater to your busy life. Our innovative platform provides a personalized learning experience, empowering you to thrive in today's ever-evolving world. Join a global community of learners guided by an experienced faculty who are committed to your success. With VCU, you're not just earning a degree, you're preparing for a future that integrates faith, leadership, and service. Viridian Christian University, educating with purpose, transforming lives. Learn more at ViridianChristianUniversity.com. ViridianChristianUniversity.com.
Noah Dingley here, producer of The James Cooley Show, It's Your Life. And the new audio version of James' book, Country Boy, City Boy, A Journey That Ain't Over Yet, is a must-have. James shares his true life story of struggle and success in America. It's both a cautionary tale and a roadmap to achieving the American dream. Get the new audio version of Country Boy, City Boy, A Journey That Ain't Over Yet by James Cooley on Amazon.com or wherever audiobooks are sold.
Hello, welcome back to the James Cooley Show, It's Your Life. And just like I said, we got Dr. Michael Mantell, 306 Degree Health, has done it again. Got Jason here. We're talking about things that are so important, especially when it comes to emotional and eating and overeating. And, I tell you what, many of us have that problem. I mean, at one time I had that problem where I was overweight, but I had to get it under control. And sometimes it takes professionals to help get you through these things. And tell you what, Jason is one of those professionals. So Jason, you are putting out it's bringing valuable knowledge. I'm going to turn it back over to Dr. Mike.
Alrighty. Jason, this is a particularly appropriate time for us to be talking about eating issues with the holiday of Passover and the holiday of Easter coming up. And how do we celebrate? We eat and we eat and we eat. I want to ask you about the fact that many people who have eating concerns believe that all I need is the right nutritional, whatever strategy or enough willpower in order to conquer this eating issue. If I have enough willpower, I can get through this holiday time. But it doesn't work. And so what do you think is going on that these approaches continue to fail? And we're turning now to other things like GLP-1 and other methods that don't rely on people necessarily changing behavior. What are your thoughts about this, that these other traditional methods are just going down the tube?
I think a good place to start, I started talking a little before the break, is unmet needs. There's a lot of unmet needs going around. And then how unmet needs relates to keep this simple, dopamine. We could say reward chemicals more broadly. For your listeners, a primer. And I'm going to say this like I'm saying it to a kid. When we're coming short on meeting enough of our needs, enough of the time, our dopamine levels sink. And again, I'm saying this like to a kid, that feels bad. Because in our evolutionary background, that would have meant we're experiencing a survival challenge. It wasn't a good thing. So our bodies really want to get that dopamine level back up, and there are various ways to do that. Food works. Junk food works faster than real food because it's broken down more quickly and turned into blood sugar more quickly. And sugary food works the best because it turns into blood sugar almost immediately. So oftentimes when a person is overeating or eating junk food or eating sugary food, they are correcting their dopamine levels. They're balancing their dopamine levels. So that's why nutrition strategies and willpower don't work, because they're the wrong tools for the job. And even if they were to be able to move the needle in the right direction, they're not even close to enough magnitude. I think in a piece of writing of mine, I refer to it's like trying to drain Lake Erie with a spoon. So like technically you could do it, but take forever and ever and ever, because that reward chemical mechanism is millions of years old and very, 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 very strong. Now there's a hopeful message in there, because if you're able to meet some of the unmet needs more of the time, you get the dopamine you're seeking and you don't crave the food, which can also be alcoholic drinks, scrolling the internet. There are all kinds of ways to boost dopamine these days that are maladaptive. So that's a good starting point, I think.
So, I do a lot of cognitive behavioral work, rational emotive behavioral work. And when someone talks to me about unmet needs, and I don't know, I just have this need and I just have to eat. And then I feel, so I asked them about this. Define a need. Who says it's an unmet need?
Okay.
A need means I must have it. And it's terrible if I don't, I can't bear it. So, for those who are listening right now, who are feeling frustrated, they've tried everything, let's turn right now into some practical, proven strategies that you bring to help people overcome and eventually gently interrupt the habits that they've had and turn to living with healthier eating habits.
It's as simple as sort of tuning into oneself and saying, am I genuinely hungry right now? If you are, then it's generally appropriate to eat, right? None of us would suggest starving oneself, right?
Right.
But if one tunes in and I just had a good sized meal and I'm full and I want that pie or that ice cream or whatever it is, I encourage a person to then ask themselves, if not what unmet need is here, a simpler question of what else would feel good right now? What's something else that might comfort me or help me feel good right now? This is a very broad way of doing it. And this is a little bit more of an advanced way, because I'm encouraging a person to ask a very open-ended question. That's to help them develop the skill of tuning into themselves and determine what they might need. To make it a little easier, we can start with like a drop-down menu. People often need rest. People often need sleep. People often need fresh air or sunlight or a deeper immersion in nature. People often need some connection or even bonding. The two biggest ways we kept our dopamine levels in a good place in evolution were food and each other. Now, we had the advantage in past times that all of the food available was real food. So we couldn't find a way to go get some junk food at the convenience store. And we lived in hunter-gatherer bands and agricultural villages where being around each other was kind of a constant, if not a constant. In 2025, we can find ourselves not in the environment where enough of our needs are being met enough of the time. So that's what I encourage people to look at, and with no judgment of themselves, with that check engine light mentality of, yeah, this is encouraging me to do something. The most hopeful stories are when people over some time overcome emotional eating and do something like move into truly fulfilling work, or bridge some maybe they had become estranged from some relatives, and they say I need to that can't be the situation anymore. I need to make that better. Those are the kind of things that often help a person in a chronic way overcome emotional eating.
Wow. I just want to go back a little bit, and I got a question. How does restricted diets actually increase emotional eating tendencies over a period of time?
Basically, like what goes up must come down, essentially. The more deprived we feel, the more likely we are to experience something like a binge. We work better, we operate better when we're essentially harmoniously meeting most of our needs most of the time, and not going too deprived on anything, not just food, but anything that is a true need.
So what's the difference between eating for fuel and eating for emotional regulation?
It's hard. It can be hard to distinguish, because so much we can learn to eat for comfort and compensation at very early ages, and it can become very normalized. Also in our culture, eating and eating poorly and overeating are generally normalized. Meaning, what I mean by that is, if someone was taking heroin to boost their dopamine levels, that's not socially acceptable. But if someone has a whole container of ice cream, we're kind of like, oh, that's what happens in romantic comedies all the time. Like that's just what we do. Which again, I come from a no judgment place. Most people that want to overcome that want to do so because having the whole container of ice cream is causing them to have prediabetes, or causing them to have other problems they don't want to be having.
You mentioned self-judgment and judgment a number of times. I'm wondering, what do you see in the clients you work with? What role does self-compassion play in permanently putting emotional eating and disordered eating into the background? How important is self-compassion and lack of self-judgment in this?
It's huge in this, and it's huge in almost all behavior improvement and habit formation. We mistakenly think that I used a royal we I probably shouldn't have used, that many of us at different times in our lives think that being as hard as we possibly can be on ourselves is the best way to motivate ourselves. And it isn't true. Too deep to go into here. There's actually scientific evidence that taking a more self-accepting, self-compassionate, self-kind perspective leads a person to subjective experiences of motivation, and also to taking more action on their behalf. The analogy I like for this is, imagine having a boss. A boss is a great example. If you had that boss that always was telling you what you were doing wrong, and was always telling you where you were coming up short, and was always pointing out what they deemed to be your character flaws, that's not that motivating. There's obviously a place for constructive criticism, and there's a place for constructive self-criticism. But think about that boss that sees the best in you, sees what's possible for you, doesn't Pollyanna, doesn't pretend you're some sort of perfect, but is continually encouraging, notices your progress, that's actually more motivating. And then just think about the relationship with yourself is just internalizing that. Do you want to be a nasty boss or an encouraging boss?
I like how you put that analogy together. That was because I have had to deal with stuff like that with my bosses a while back. And encouragement, I believe, is always the best recipe for a person. Also, self-criticism, as you mentioned, and construction criticism is important. But we have to always keep it in the right term. We're going to take a station break. But I am enjoying this conversation. I tell you what, if you want to be part of this conversation, just go to the platform that you're watching us on. Was it E36 Television, Transfer TV, YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, Rumble, and all 84 other platforms. Go to the comments, ask any question that you might have. I promise you we'll get you an answer. It's your life, and we'll see you shortly after the break.
The James Cooley Show, It's Your Life, can be heard every Sunday at 9 p.m. right here on The Answer San Diego. Life is full of circles, cycles, phases, and stages. It's your choice to ignore or embrace them. Motivational speaker, author, military veteran, and founder of the J.C. Cooley Foundation, James Cooley and his guest will inspire and equip you to strive for your own greatness and overcome adversities. Listen to The James Cooley Show, It's Your Life, every Sunday at 9 p.m. right here on The Answer San Diego.
Life is filled with circles and cycles, phases and stages that shape who we are. These moments define us, and we have the choice to either accept or embrace them. Hello, I'm Dr. Michelle Cooley, and I encourage you to support the J.C. Cooley Scholarship You Can Award so we can empower high school seniors and college students to believe that they can achieve anything they set their minds to.
Hello, I'm Dr. James J.C. Cooley, the host of It's Your Life Radio and also founder of the J.C. Cooley Foundation. With your help through donations to this year's J.C. Cooley Foundation Scholarship Award, we aim to inspire, prepare the next generation of leaders. We kindly ask for your generous support to help bless at least 30 or more future leaders by donating between a minimum of $250 or more. Please consider donating what you can by May 1st and join us in shaping our future leaders of tomorrow.
A Black Man's Point of View is the newest Amazon.com #1 release and bestseller book from author Dr. James J.C. Cooley, featuring the perspective from 11 other contributing authors. In A Black Man's Point of View, Dr. James Cooley unpacks his thoughts and personal experiences about the challenges, stereotypes, and feelings of self-worth that many black men face today due to a 400-year ancestry rooted in slavery and colonization. Yet, how so many black men move forward despite this history. Most importantly, A Black Man's Point of View conveys that all men, regardless of race, creed, or color, are capable of love, respect, and dignity. Described as a map to a greater life from the heart of a man who's experienced life's misfortune and harsh conditions, James shows us how beliefs, convictions, and a healthy mentality can help propel a life worth living. A must-read for all. Order your copy of A Black Man's Point of View by author Dr. James J.C. Cooley today from Amazon.com or wherever books are sold.
James Cooley Show. It's your life. Dr. James J.C. Cooley.
Hello, welcome back to the James Cooley Show. It's Your Life, and I tell you, I don't know if I can you guys hear me?
We sure can.
Oh, okay. I'm having some technical difficulties on my end. I'm cutting in, but this conversation is so intriguing and so knowledgeable. And I tell you, I'm gonna start off with the first question. And are there any specific neurochemicals or brain regions involved in compulsive eating behaviors?
I think the simplest starting point, you might have missed this part of the conversation. We were talking about dopamine and other reward chemicals. So probably doesn't make sense to go back to that. There are some are the two other mechanisms that are I think people will find interesting. One is we essentially have a simple way to think of this is our two hormones. One is can be thought of as a hunger hormone, and one can be thought of as a fullness hormone. They are ghrelin and leptin, respectively. And to make this very simple, some of the important unmet needs, this is often talked about with regard to sleep. There's good scientific evidence that it's a factor with regard to relationships or regarding relationships. But essentially, all other factors being equal, keeping this very simple, let's talk sleep. All other factors being equal, when a person doesn't get enough sleep, they have more of the hunger hormone and less of the fullness hormone. So that's just wacky. This plays out in scientific studies where they take people to a grocery store in the morning and give them $100 and say, go spend $100. And the sleep deprived people buy significantly more food with significantly higher energy intake. So that's at play. Another interesting mechanism is we have a sympathetic and each of us has a sympathetic and a parasympathetic nervous system. And the people are familiar with the sympathetic nervous system is fight or flight. To keep it simple, the parasympathetic nervous system is the opposite or complementary system that is really about driving us not into a stress response, but into a relaxation response. In part because being in a relaxed state helps us digest our food. So here's what's interesting. Stuffing oneself, think like the stereotypical like Thanksgiving experience. It might be uncomfortable in some ways, but physiologically, it's very relaxing. That's why people refer to it as a quote unquote food coma, right? So if a person is struggling at the end of the day, is a good example, to get themselves to relax, and they haven't learned other ways to get themselves to relax, getting a little overly full, quote unquote stuffed, creates a temporary state of relatively profound relaxation. So I hope that helps, James. Those are some other mechanisms that are at play. Now, I hope that when people hear that, that also gets them out of the willpower trap or the there's something wrong with me trap or I'm a bad person trap. Hopefully.
And that helped out tremendously. Yes.
So what does it take in your work with clients to actually build a mindset that supports lasting freedom from unhealthy eating? What's the first steps in our mind, our thinking, that we need to take to escape from this unhealthy eating pattern?
It's a good question. It's a big question. I would say the first steps, and maybe the most foundational steps, involve helping a person come to understand why doing so, why eating better is important to them, personally important to them. We're much more motivated. Go ahead, Mike.
What do you do when they say, yeah, no, I know all that. I know it's unhealthy for me.
I probe a little, and I'll ask a question like, if you could learn to eat better, what would it bring to your life? And sometimes a person's a little surface in their answer of like, I'd feel better to start, but almost like a curious kid who keeps asking why. I would say, what do you mean by feeling better? And they might go a little deeper. And eventually they might get to something like, my mom died of diabetes, type 2 diabetes, at a very early age. And I'm living a lot like my mom. And that terrifies me. Now, I like to shift things to the positive. So we're often motivated best motivation is often when we're running away from something and running towards something. You've got a push and a pull. So then I would say, ask them maybe, I know that's what you don't want to experience. what do you want to do with your 60s, 70s, and potentially much longer than that, if you can learn to eat better and you can learn to avoid type 2 diabetes and avoid other ailments. And then they'll get talking about their dreams, things they want to do in their career, things they want to experience personally in their relationships or otherwise. That's a great start. There's more details and strategizing that has to happen to help a person learn to form positive habits. But it's having the foundation of why it's personally important to them is very helpful.
Jason, is it possible? I know this topic is about overcoming emotional eating. Is boredom a symptom of emotional eating? Some people eat because they're bored. A snacker at night. They're not hungry. They're not stressed. They're not worried or anything. They just like having something in their hand to eat, that relaxes them. So what are your thoughts about emotional eating when it comes to being bored?
I sometimes say to someone who's struggling with emotional eating and they're not exactly sure what's driving it, and if my question about what might be driving it is too open-ended, I give them a drop-down menu, and the drop-down menu is bored, lonely, stressed, tired. That's certainly not all-encompassing, but it's the 4 that I see over and over and over again. And as I say it, heads nod. Sometimes to individual parts, sometimes to the whole thing. Boredom. The most common of those you hear is the term stress eating, but boredom eating is common. As I mentioned earlier, there are a lot of unmet needs going around. I like to sometimes say our culture is a petri dish of bored, lonely, stressed, tired. So we can be real about that and then help a person. Sometimes I ask it in a clunky way on purpose. I will say, what would make you unbored? Because that gets them thinking like in the opposite direction. Now, you can ask other questions like, what would be enjoyable to now, or what's something that would be more exciting to do? Now, it's important to think about these things in 2 frameworks, which is sort of like the short-term antidote and the long-term antidote, right? So someone might be able to answer that question and say, I'm going to go for a walk this evening, or I'm going to go to the movies this evening, and that would be enjoyable. That would make me unbored. But sometimes the boredom in a person's life is more chronic. I alluded to this earlier. They might be in a career that just isn't working for them. And that's chronic boredom. You can have chronic of the other challenges too, a chronic experience of the other issues too. And that just requires a deeper dive. But often a person's progress journey looks like learning to handle it in the short term, getting some traction with that, then being able to look a little deeper and be like, all right, I can keep doing something to make myself unbored in the evening. But if I'm bored every evening, I've got something bigger to look at here.
So how do you think that the move into GLP-1 and these kinds of things are improving the weight issue and dealing with motivation and so forth and so on? How do you understand that?
Well, I have to say it's absolutely fascinating that it's, in the context of the conversation we're having, I don't claim to be the one person who completely understands the social dynamic of eating issues, as you know, Michael, and that's you could study that your whole life and not get to the bottom of it. It's huge.
Hey, hold that thought. We got to take a station break, but I don't want to, but I got to pay the bills. So I tell you what, if you're enjoying this conversation, you want to be part of it, it's not too late. We got another 10 minutes or segment coming your way. So I tell you what, whichever platform that you're watching us on, go to it. Just even say hello. Let us know the knowledge that you're watching, that you are getting some valuable information. Tell you what, it's your life, and we'll be back shortly after the break.
It's the James Cooley Show. It's your life. Dr. James J.C. Cooley. Yeah. Come on.
Hi, I'm Dr. Michelle Cooley. Heart disease research saves lives. It's that simple. Thanks to medical advancements funded by the American Heart Association, more women are surviving heart attacks, strokes, and other cardiovascular diseases than ever before. But there's still so much work to do.
Hi, I'm Dr. James J.C. Cooley, and I'm raising funds to support life-saving research because every heartbeat is worth fighting for. In honor of Women's History Month, please join me in support of the American Heart Association and women's health.
Really get a chance to know who you are. And once you know who you are, you truly know who you are, love who you are. Love who you are. You're a masterpiece. Love who you are. Love who you were born to be. Love me some me. That's what I'm talking about. When you leave high school, you gotta know today or tomorrow, or hopefully today, what your plans are. Hopefully, there is no bad decision unless there is no plan. Create, collaborate, commit with confidence. Commit with what? Commit with what? In everything that you do.
The James Cooley Show. It's your life. That's right.
Hello, welcome back to the James Cooley Show. It's your life, and I tell you, this guest that we got on right here is really bringing and educating us. And Dr. Mike, I got to invite him back.
Oh, yeah.
Dr. Mike.
If
his schedule permits.
Yeah.
If his schedule permits, we want him back, Doc. But Jason, you're sharing with our viewers and our listeners so many important things that need to be observed. I mean, a lot of people have emotional eating habits or whatever that is, don't even know it. They just eating, just be eating. Then, and you mentioned something earlier about you had a meal, you full, you thought about the ice cream, whatever that was, but kind of pushed it to the side because you don't need it. So that's one of the things that I think we need to convey to our viewers and our listeners, that sometimes just because you want something, a want is a want, a need is a have. Just because you want it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to have it at that time. So can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I would circle back.
I think you're on mute.
No, he's not.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you fine.
Good. I'll circle back to the idea that it's really not about simply saying no to it, but having the experience of tuning into oneself. And I think a neat way to tie some of this together is to think about two steps that we've already talked about, but this might make for a good summary, which is come from a place of self-acceptance, self-compassion, and self-kindness. And what I'll add that we haven't talked about yet is it's often harder to do that for ourselves than it is for other people. So a neat question I'll often ask a client who's being very hard on themselves is, how would you talk to a friend who was experiencing what you're experiencing right now, excuse me, and making the efforts you're making right now? So I want to leave that with your listeners, that's a good framework. Is you don't have to summon some exceptional mindset power, but if you simply treat yourself like you'd treat a friend, you're probably getting yourself to a good place, a good starting point. And then step two would be to use essentially the needs framework and think about What else could I do to comfort myself right now? What else might what might I be compensating for? And how could I take some steps? Not only can they be, but I would encourage them to be, they can be small steps. Because I often get the respectful pushback of, I can't just wave a magic wand and make my work not stressful. Or I can't just wave a magic wand and make my kids less stressful. But to me, that's that's true, that you can't wave a magic wand and make it all better. But it's disempowering to think you can't do anything about it. So that's where I encourage people to break it down into smaller steps. How could you make your work 10% less stressful, or to state it positively, 10% more fulfilling? And the same with your relationships or anything else. I'll add a thought that I think is worth adding, which is when we're doing things other than eating to help ourselves feel better, it helps if the other things we do are sensory in nature. Because that's how the sort of reward chemical pathways work. That's why food works, because it tastes good and it smells good and all of that. So an example would be you might make yourself feel better by listening to some music on your phone. If you can go outside and listen to the free summer concert, the complimentary summer concert, and you get there's nature and there's people and it's live music, that's more sensory rich, and that's more potent in sort of boosting your dopamine levels. So don't try to just think positively, but try to have positive sensory rich experiences.
Yeah, I think it's what we're saying here for the last hour is that the big takeaway is it's not about more discipline. It's about more understanding. It isn't about fixing yourself. You're not broken. It's about listening to yourself so you can hear these messages that you're giving and begin to question them and ask yourself, wait a minute, is this cookie is really what I'm telling myself makes me feel better? Mm-hmm. Maybe I need to listen to myself more. Listen real quickly. The GLP culture has taken over. A quick word about that for us. We don't have a long time left in the show, but just quickly about the GLP culture. Tell us about that.
To go straight to the heart of matter, I think it's I think the biggest challenge that it's creating and will continue to create is it's the missed opportunity to look at these other parts of ourselves. I think that's my biggest concern, is that if a person can solve the physiological problem without having to look at any of this other stuff, I think there are some potential negative unintended consequences of that in the direction of being a missed opportunity. I want to say all that in the frame that I think these medications can be used like a crutch, and I mean crutch in the positive sense of the word crutch. That's often thought used as a negative, but what I mean is if any of us, if I fell down and hurt my ankle, right, I wouldn't be stubborn and say, I'm going to get better only by physical therapy. I'm not going to use any crutches. The crutch is a helpful tool as long as I'm also doing physical therapy. If I thought I could get better only by using the crutch and didn't do any constructive, productive rehabilitation, I probably wouldn't heal my ankle as fully as possible. So I think for many people, it can be a starter. It can be something that gets them going on this journey. If they're simultaneously wholeheartedly working on making lifestyle improvements, I think that can be very potent. I think the real danger is thinking of these medications as a magic wand.
And we can say that about everything from ADHD, depression, anxiety. More and more people are talking about this very topic. Real quickly, if you could put one sentence on a billboard for every emotional eater out there, what would it be?
It would be something like, be good to yourself, and practice proactively meeting your needs.
We have 2 minutes left. Let's leave people with a message of hope. And if people want to be in touch with you, if people want to learn more about your work, how can they get in touch? How can they connect with you? And what's the hopeful message here?
I'll circle back to that check engine light idea that if you're struggling with emotional eating, it's simply your check engine light coming on. It's encouraging you to look at your engine. The engine is your life. And it's not encouraging you to look at that in a judgmental way. It's encouraging you to look at that in an accepting way and see what could use some improving and how your life could be better at the engine level. And you'll likely see your emotional eating start to fade away.
So real quickly, Jason, tell our viewers and listeners one more time how they can get in touch with you and enlist your services.
I'm on all the social media channels as Jason Gootman. The name of my business is Puvema, Puvema, and my website address is simply puvema.com. And that's a great way to reach me.
And I get all your emails, and they're great. I want everyone to get them. They're very informative and very interesting.
Jason, I want to thank you so much for taking the time to come on the show. Dr. Mike, man, you're my hero. You already know that. I'd like to thank Dr. Michelle Cooley for putting together another absolutely fantastic show. But most importantly, I'd like to thank our viewers and our listeners for tuning into the James Cooley Show Monday through Friday at 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 4 p.m. Central Standard Time, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and also on Sundays at 6 p.m. Central Standard Time in Dallas, and also in San Diego at 9 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on KCBQ AM 1170 Answer. Always dream big, think big, and be big. We'll be back tomorrow, same time, same place. Remember, it's your life, and we'll see you then.